Well, there is a concerning new trend in foreign scammers stealing from unsuspecting Australians and using that money to purchase multi-million-dollar mansions in Sydney's most prestigious suburbs. Every day, thousands of Aussies are being caught out by the devastating inaction on fraudsters.
So this has given Australia the title of the world's honeypot for scammers, with $2.74 billion lost in 2023 alone. Now there are new calls from the government to introduce legislation making it mandatory for banks to compensate victims. To tell us more, Chief Executive of Cybertrace, Dan Halpin. Great to have you with us in the studio here. So, Dan, you deal with Aussies affected by scammers every day. What sort of impact is it having on everyday people?
The impact on everyday people, it ranges depending on what type of scam it is, but generally speaking, most people are left with a huge burden, whether they need to take loans because they've lost their super, they need to go on the pension, they have to explain all this to their family and their friends. So generally speaking, the impact on their life is massive.
Yeah, I just looked up the figures. I think in 2023, Australians lost $2.74 billion in scams. It is an enormous amount of money. Do you think the Australian government should force the banks to repay? Could they even do that?
They definitely could, but it's important to say that the money that is reported to us as being lost so far is likely to be only a proportion, because we're finding a lot of victims that contact us, they're not even reporting it to the authorities such as ACCC, and these are the organisations that are collecting the stats that we're hearing. So the real amount of money that has been lost by Australians is likely to be much higher. Wow. In terms of the banks, yes, they should be held more accountable, but we also have to think about the government's response. Who's holding the government accountable? Are they buck passing to private industry? Because let's say, for example, if we're looking at the New South Wales government response, such as the police response to cybercrime, they are failing massively. So why are we looking to fine banks when our own government is simply letting everyone down?
Yeah, everyone needs to do a bit of the heavy lifting, don't they? What about this, the cybercrims buying houses in Australia? What's that all about?
That's more of an assumption from what I can, from my understanding, but I feel that it's quite a good assumption, considering that we know that Chinese scammers are targeting Australians quite heavily with the pig butchering scams and fake job scams that no doubt everyone has seen so far. And we also know from AFP raids within Australia that there are organisations that are Chinese-based organisations doing money laundering quite heavily in Australia. So you could quite comfortably assume that the money that is being laundered is coming from these syndicates that are targeting Australians.
So, yeah, what do you mean by those two particular scams? Because there's too many to keep up with. Yeah. How do people protect themselves?
To protect themselves, it really does depend on the type of scam, but ideally, the government would be helping with more awareness, but failing that, people need to take steps themselves to become aware of the type of scams, the methodology, and who's being targeted. So if you're a retiree with access to super, then you should know that you are likely going to be targeted. Wow. So everyone needs to take it upon themselves to learn about the scams, and that could be simply just keeping up with media or looking at articles from companies such as mine, which, you know, we publish everything that's coming through in almost real time. Yeah. So those sorts of methods would be the best. But also, probably the main take-home would be very sceptical of any unsolicited contact, whether that be email, SMS, WhatsApp, whatever the case is, just ask questions.
Check and check again. Thank you, Dan, and check again after that. Thanks for coming in.
My pleasure.
Cheers.
And if you want to find out more and sign the news.com.au petition, head to the Sunrise website for more information on that one.